The World Series of Poker main event. It's where legends are born. Winners of this prestigious tournament are immortalized in poker history. But while every champion has earned their fame, not all champions are created equal. Some champs have gone on to become amongst the most iconic poker players in the world. Others have had their reputations ruined forever, which is why I'm taking on today's important task, ranking every main event champion in the history of the World Series of Poker. Before we get to this list with some names you guys are definitely going to want to talk about, we have to talk about how we are going to rank these players. Now, it's always a little difficult to rank someone year by year, era by era. So much stuff has changed, but there's a lot we have to take into consideration, such as their overall poker career, the legacy of the player, the impact of their victory, the size of the field, the way they conducted themselves as an ambassador. These are all things that go into this ranking, so of course this is a subjective list, but I think there's some people you're probably going to agree with. Don't you worry, I also love Chris Ferguson. We are going to go through this list chronologically, which means we begin with three-time World Series of Poker main event champion, Johnny Moss. Johnny's first ever championship occurred in 1970, but there was one important note about this poker tournament. There was no tournament. That's right, the players all played together. At the end, they just voted on who they thought was best. And if there's anything we know about poker players, we all pretty much agree on everything. If they had poker Twitter back in the 70s, I think we would have gotten some pretty hot takes. Johnny didn't just win the 1970 championship though, he also won in 71 and 74 when poker was starting to be played. Those fields extremely small though, at 6 and 16. These are 1 and 2 table tournaments, which are night and day compared to today's shit shows. So I guess in terms of actual wins, while Johnny might have 3 championships, it's not the most impressive, beating out a total of, if you don't include him, 16 people over 3 years. Not really the most difficult thing to ever imagine, and I'm sure the players back then were maybe not so good. Those things said, the grand old man of poker did end up having 9 World Series of Poker bracelets, good for $1.2 million in tournament earnings, which was much more difficult back in the day than it is now. So with all of those things said, I'm going to put Johnny Moss in the A tier. Our next player is one you've probably heard of at some point. Thomas Preston, known better as Amarillo Slim, won the 1972 main event. He was a legendary old school poker player who was close friends with Doyle Brunson. Over the course of his career, he ended up winning 4 bracelets, which frankly, if you were there at the very start of things, is not that impressive of a number when you consider how small some of these fields were. For example, the main event victory he had, it was just an 8-player field. It's just not that impressive to beat out a field that can't quite fill 1 table. Much like Johnny Moss before him, Amarillo Slim was inducted into the Poker Hall of Fame. However, there were some troubling personal issues Amarillo had over the years. So with all of this in mind, I'm going to go ahead and give Amarillo a B. We're going to put him slightly below Johnny Moss. He was generally speaking a little bit less respected than Johnny Moss was. However, he is still an important, notable figure in the history of poker. The other player to be wedged in between Johnny Moss victories was Walter Puggy Pearson. He won the 1973 main event as one of his 4 total bracelets. Like we've seen with these other early champions, he defeated a field of 13 to win the bracelet, which I might add is roughly double what the field was just 2 years before. There is so little information and footage about these old school WSOP legends, so with this in mind, I'm just going to go ahead and place him in the B tier as well. The 1975 championship was won by Brian Sailor Roberts. Quite the nickname we have there, Captain. It is funny to me how all these old school players have to have nicknames.
You're a poker player. I met your people in Vegas for 40 years. None of them have last names.
Just why was Brian's nickname Sailor? He was in the Navy. It's a very creative one. Amarillo Slim was known as Amarillo, but he actually was born in Johnston, Arkansas, and moved to Turkey, Texas as an infant. Slim is quoted by saying, "Amarillo Slim sounds a heck of a lot better than Turkey Tom or Arkansas Austin." This does make me think that maybe we went wrong by losing the nicknames. I've got some good ideas for some ones we could have gone with. Like, for example, Pius the Ketchup Heinz, Huck Mustard Seed, Jonathan the Wizard Tamayo, Johnny Sins Sin, Chris Moneymaker. That last one really rolls off the tongue. But anyway, back to Sailor Roberts. He was one of the least impressive main event champions. In fact, his $210,000 score accounted for almost all of his career earnings at $267,000. It was also later revealed that he chopped up the money with the second place finisher, Bob Hooks. Wait a goddamn second.
Neither player earned a bracelet. Neither player will be rewarded with a bracelet.
They chopped this? So it does appear that people have been chopping up bracelets for money for years, and this is something that should not be surprising to anyone, and is also why, in my opinion, it does not in any way impact the integrity to do so at the end of an event, because it has been happening for years, and once again, it is the player's money. Sorry, I get sidetracked on this issue, guys. I'm pretty passionate about it. But back to Sailor Roberts. Keep getting distracted on this one. You know, he won almost nothing else other than this. It was a really tiny field. No one remembers him. Unfortunately, I think we're going to have to give this guy the D tier. Our next main event champion won it twice. It's a pretty unknown player, someone named Doyle Brunson. You guys probably haven't heard of him. I'm just kidding. Texas Dolly, the godfather of poker. Doyle Brunson won back-to-back main events in 1976 and 1977. But his accolades do not end there. He is one of the most famous and well-recognized players of all time. He revolutionized the poker world with his book Super System, and even though he was primarily known as a cash game player, he won 10 WSOP bracelets and had over $6 million in career tournament earnings. There has been a question lately about who would you put on your poker Mount Rushmore. You get 4 faces. Who would be on there? Well, many players would include Doyle Brunson, although I'll say my Mount Rushmore does look a little bit different. It wasn't just winning tournaments or pioneering poker strategy that left such a legacy for Doyle Brunson. It was also playing in a variety of the highest stakes cash games in the world. In fact, all the way down the stretch, even into his later years, he played in some gigantic games. The impact Doyle Brunson had on poker is unquestioned, and he'll be the first member of my S tier. Next up, the 1978 main event championship was won by Bobby Baldwin. Now, this is another one of those names you might have heard of from somewhere, most specifically from the high stakes room at Bellagio known as Bobby's Room. Bobby Baldwin won 4 WSOP bracelets and over $2.3 million in career earnings to go along with his 1978 main event champion. So, main event champion, 4 bracelets, high stakes room after him, obviously played in many of the private games, the high stakes games. He also was a casino executive in Las Vegas and ran many different aspects of gambling in Las Vegas over the course of 30 years or so. With all of these things, I'm going to go ahead and put Bobby Baldwin in the A tier. I can see an argument to move him down a little bit. However, I think when you have this well-known of a name and this much impact on poker, it's worth having him in a high tier. On the other hand, B tier Bobby Baldwin does have some nice alliteration going. I'm going to go with my gut and keep him in the A tier. The 1979 championship was won by Hal Fowler. And like many of you, my first reaction to seeing this was, who the hell is Hal Fowler? It turns out that he was a recreational poker player that just got lucky one year, winning $270,000 with only $380K in career earnings. Unsurprisingly, he's not going to make it high on my list because he didn't really do anything outside of that, and I'd never heard of him, so his impact on poker is certainly up for question. I'm going to go ahead and put him in my D tier. Our next one's going to be controversial. We have 3-time WSOP main event champion, Stu the Kid Ungar. Stu joins Johnny Moss as the only other 3-time main event champions, and he's a very polarizing name on this list. He won back-to-back championships in 80 and 81 before winning it a 3rd time much later in 1997. In total, he won 5 WSOP bracelets and had over $3.6 million in career earnings. He also had the respect of many as one of the most brilliant minds to play the game of poker. Unfortunately for Stu, it was not all roses and sunshine. In fact, he had a troubled life and battled with drug and gambling addictions before his death in 1998. According to other people around Stu at the time, after winning the 1997 championship, he lost a lot of the money that week betting on sports and ultimately spiraled out of control, leading to his 1998 death. Stu is considered one of the best poker players ever. Many people look at him in an idolizing sort of way that I think speaks to the spirit of poker. He came up so young and was so talented. That said, he also highlights the problem, the dark side of poker, the gambling world, what Las Vegas can do to people. So with all of those things kind of combined, I'm going to go ahead and put him in the A tier, certainly in ability and the fact he won 3 main events. That would be S tier stuff. But when you think about the personal side, the dark side of poker that it brings attention to, that has to also weigh in there. What do you guys think in the comments below? Our 1982 main event champion was Jack Straus. His title is most famous for the fact at one point in the tournament, he was down to just a 500 chip. That's right, one single 500 chip. He had a miraculous comeback and went on to win, which is where the popular chip in a chair expression came from. I knew that expression was an old school one, but I always thought it came from somewhere else. A chip in a chair. Outside of that main event victory for 500K, there's not too much to say about Jack Straus, but the expression is great. So for that alone and the main event victory, we're going to go ahead and put Jack in the B tier. Tom McEvoy won the main event in 1983 for over $500,000, which was a particularly large score for him because he satellited his way into the event. To win the main, he had to endure a 7-hour heads-up battle, which was the longest on record until 2006. McEvoy had 4 career bracelets for over $3 million in career earnings, so he'll be joining the B tier on our ranking. The 1984 main event was won by Jack Keller. He won $660,000 after defeating a 132-player field. You can see the sizes of these fields starting to grow now. Keller is in the Poker Hall of Fame and has won 3 WSOP bracelets and has made just shy of $4 million in earnings. Now, Jack isn't very well known, and even though he's in the Poker Hall of Fame, to me, this is one of the less impactful names with less known about them. So I'm going to go ahead and put Jack into my C tier. Our 1985 main event champion is Bill Smith. Oh, how far we've fallen from names like Puggy, Amarillo, and Sailor. The 1985 main event champion was named Bill Smith, and just like his name, his resume is pretty boring as well. His $700,000 score in the main event was almost the entirety of his $1.1 million in career earnings. But here's one fun fact about Bill. According to Wikipedia, he often played tournaments drunk, and by all accounts, he was an alcoholic. Great. That is shameful behavior. There is no room for drinking in poker.
Another shot? Can I get in there? Oh, we already got it right here.
Looks like the players are already.
Oh my God, already? Oh no. Cheers, everybody.
Doug's a lightweight, too.
If you have a 10 in spades, you probably... Oh, yeah.
Doug's slurring his speech. Shout out to all the wives watching.
I'm also possibly drunk. So please input that into the equation.
That was totally different and was fine behavior. I digress. With the lack of resume and just this one victory and nothing known about him other than alcoholism, I'm going to go ahead and put Bill Smith in my D tier. Pour one out for Bill Smith. Moving on to one of the most surprising names on this list, Barry Johnston won the main event in 1986. And the reason it's surprising is because he spelled Barry wrong. Is Barry ever spelled like that? Looks wrong to me. Barry Johnston had 5 career bracelets, made 29 final tables, and cashed the main event 10 times. He also holds the record for 29 consecutive years of cashing in a popular poker tournament series. Welcome to the B tier, Barry. I don't think it's controversial to say we had a couple years of very mediocre champs, but now it's time to talk about back-to-back main event champion Johnny Chan, who won the event in 1987 as well as 1988. He almost completed a three-peat with a second place finish in 1989. Johnny won 10 bracelets in his career and was immortalized in the movie Rounders.
Did you have it? I'm sorry, John. I don't remember. I sat with the best in the world, and I won.
He's one of the most accomplished and famous main event champions of all time, and his tournament resume backs up his position towards the top. He's also famous for playing in lots of high-stakes cash games. This is where I am really torn. I am really torn because in my opinion, Johnny Chan, he is a notch above someone like a Stu Ungar in the A tier, but he's pretty clearly a notch below someone like Doyle Brunson right above him. I'm really torn on where to put this guy between A and S tier, which is why I'm making my new tier, the JC tier for Johnny Chan. Am I allowed to do that? Can I just make up a tier? I think I can. Next up is a name I know you guys have been waiting for. Phil Hellmuth, the poker brat, is arguably the most famous poker player of all time. His antics are directly responsible for some of the most watched content in poker history. Some YouTubers have been capitalizing on his outrageous burst for viewership for years. I hate those guys. Some people have no shame. And it's not just the antics that have gained Phil Hellmuth this fame over the years. He's arguably the most accomplished tournament player in history, having won a record 17 bracelets. Phil Ivey is the next closest with 11. The only blemishes when it comes to playing poker for Phil Hellmuth, well, he doesn't exactly have the best track record when it comes to cash games, at least according to High Roll Poker, and also his hot dog eating leaves much to be desired.
God damn it, I hate losing to Doug Poker.
We could sit here and talk about Phil Hellmuth for hours, and I know one viewer who would really like that, but there is simply no need to do so. There is not any main event champion that deserves S tier more than Phil Hellmuth. The 1990 main event champion was... Why did they do this to me? Was won by Mansour Matloubi. His victory was notable, but it was not the most interesting part of the event. Stu Ungar built up a gigantic chip stack early on in the tournament, and then later that night overdosed and was blinding out for the rest of the event, and yet still somehow managed to make the final table. Finishing in 9th place when you don't show up for a day of poker is a pretty impressive feat. That's how soft poker was back in the day. Can you imagine if that's all it took? Sir, what's your secret to playing great poker? Yeah, no, I like to not do drugs at night. This kid's gonna go far. Matloubi was the first non-American to win this event. He was Iranian born while living in London, but he didn't accomplish much else in poker beyond this victory, so he's gonna go ahead and join my C tier. The next 3 champions we're going to batch together: Brad Daugherty in 1991, Hamed Dastmalchi in 1992, and Jim Betchell in 1993. All 3 of these players won over $1 million playing in the main event, the first time the main event hit that threshold. Outside of that, none of them really did anything. So they are all going in the C tier together. To be totally fair, Jim actually did win another bracelet 26 years later, which is a huge gap between bracelet wins, so that's kind of cool. But other than that, these guys, really nothing notable. Moving on to our 1994 champion, Russ Piece of Shit Hamilton. Okay, that's not actually his name, but Russ Hamilton won the 1994 main event, but that has little to do with his overall legacy. His legacy is defined by his involvement in the ultimate bet scandal from the poker boom era. While serving as a consultant for the online card room, Hamilton was found as the main person responsible for and benefiting from multiple sophisticated cheating incidents. Ultimate Bet eventually refunded a total of $22 million to defrauded players. Hamilton's involvement completely ruined his legacy, and he is the first, but not last, member of my F tier. Actually, let's rename the F tier. I like that better. Our 1995 main event champion, Dan Harrington, is a breath of fresh air. He had an extremely positive impact on poker. I can say personally, I remember reading his books when I was just a teenager and learning the concept of M, how many more orbits I could survive by folding. He authored the game-changing book Harrington on Hold'em, which were some of the most popular poker books back in the day. In addition to his $1 million win in 1995, he also made back-to-back final tables in both 2003 and 2004. In total, he has 2 bracelets and over $6 million in tournament earnings. His resume is strong enough to place him in the A tier. Although I did always find it funny that his nickname was Action Dan. The guy wrote a book on how long you can survive by folding. Sending mixed messages there. We begin now entering a bit of a different era for poker champions, with the 96 main event being won by Huck Seed. This was one of the few main events to not be broadcast on television. Huck's resume speaks for itself. He won 4 bracelets and has over $7.7 million in tournament earnings. He does have a very embarrassing nickname though. I wonder who came up with that. Okay, I made that up. Fair game. But Huck does have an impressive career in poker and was inducted into the Poker Hall of Fame back in 2020. He's going to go ahead and make it into my A tier. 1998, we have Scotty Nguyen, another one that is very difficult for me to place my finger just where he should go. But we do have a nice streak going of notable names. Scotty Nguyen won the 1998 main event championship and has 5 bracelets, over $12 million in earnings, and is a member of the Poker Hall of Fame. He's probably most famous for this saying.
You call gonna be all over, baby.
I call, I play the board.
Scotty's got a 9.
Scotty's our new world champion.
Little tip from someone that was a poker pro for many years. When someone tells you if you call, it's all over, baby, I think I lean towards folding. I will say with Scotty, there are many stories about his drinking or incidents that have happened while playing poker. And there's also been some behind the scenes stuff that apparently back in the early 2010s, he allegedly went bankrupt. So it's unclear how he's done financially. Maybe there's some addiction going on. All in all, it's kind of a tough package because his main event championship was certainly legendary. He does have a lot of winnings, does have many bracelets, is a famous name. I'm going to go A tier. I could see an argument for B tier moving him down one, but I think he's done enough there. He's just got to try to avoid maybe some of the downsides of poker. A little Stu Ungar-ish, if you will. The 1999 championship was won by Noel Furlong, and he is going in my C tier. That's all I need to say. We now enter the 2000s, and you're not going to like how this starts with Chris Ferguson winning the main event championship in the year 2000. Strictly in terms of poker accolades by themselves, Chris is one of the most successful main event champions. He has 6 bracelets and almost $10 million in earnings. However, he is essentially blacklisted by the poker community for his involvement in the Full Tilt scandal, which was probably the most damaging scandal in poker history. After Black Friday, when online poker was made illegal in the United States, Full Tilt froze the account balances of players, which set the industry back for years. Chris Ferguson was a high-ranking person at Full Tilt during this, and many poker players in part blame him for not having had the funds segregated out to ensure that players could get paid back. And while ultimately the players did get paid because poker stars stepped in and bought Full Tilt and paid out those balances, Chris Ferguson's legacy is scarred from that. Now, Chris denies a lot of the accusations about his involvement in what happened with the money there, and I am really torn because unlike Russ Hamilton, where Russ absolutely did cheat people and stole their money and was a thief, it's a little more convoluted with Chris, exactly what he was in charge of. It's unclear, so I feel a little bad doing this, but people just hate Chris so much, and the amount of money that was on the line now attached to his name, he's gonna have to join Russ in the F tier. I'm sorry, I mean the FU tier. Very official list we have going. In 2001, the main was won by Carlos Mortensen. He won the main event the next year after defeating a final table that included both Phil Hellmuth and Mike Mattisau. I know what I'm bringing to that table. With 2 WSOP bracelets and over $12 million in career earnings, I'm going to go ahead and give Carlos a spot in the B tier. Robert Varkonyi won the main event in 2002, and it was the first time whole card cameras were introduced to the broadcast. Robert won the main for a $2 million prize, the largest at the time. It's crazy how fast these ramp up. Just 7-8 years ago, we saw it hit $1 million for the first time, and now we have over doubled that up to $2 million for first place. Phil Hellmuth was on the commentary for the final table broadcast and said that if Varkonyi won, he'd shave his head, which he did. But Varkonyi didn't accomplish much else in his career, and so I'm going to go ahead and make him a part of my C tier. Here we go. The 2003 main event was won by Chris Moneymaker. The poker boom officially began when Chris Moneymaker won the 2003 main event for $2.5 million after getting in on an $86 satellite. $86 turned into $2.5 million. That, my friends, is the poker dream. This victory showed the masses that anyone can do it, which is kind of a funny note, right? Like being famous for the fact that, hey man, if you could do it, I can too. Anyone can do it. Look at you. It's kind of mean in a way. With Chris's victory, this helped the game explode in popularity. And while Moneymaker's skills on the felt are up for debate, his legacy on the game is not. I don't know about you guys, but when I first got into poker, I remember seeing Chris Moneymaker won the main, and I Googled what was his name before he won, and I couldn't find anything. And eventually, I learned that that just was his name. It's the most ridiculous thing I've heard in my life. The guy's name is Moneymaker, and he won the biggest poker tournament for a big pile of money. I still don't believe it. Wait, hold on. Let me Google this. Chris Moneymaker, real name. Chris Brian Moneymaker. I still don't believe it. Moneymaker's impact on poker is undeniable. It ushered in a new era of the game. So with that in mind, we absolutely have to give Chris Moneymaker a spot in the S tier. 2004 was won by Greg Raymer. Following Moneymaker's win, the poker boom was in full effect. The tournament went from 839 players in 2003 to 2,600 in 2004. That is a gigantic increase in field size. In the end, it was Greg Raymer who emerged victorious for a $5 million first place prize, double the previous year's champion. This marks Raymer's lone bracelet and the majority of his $8 million in career earnings. Now, Greg Raymer actually ended up playing a lot of poker over the years, mainly in more mid-stakes American poker tour type stops, but he did end up having over $8 million in career earnings, and despite possibly some personal issues and some controversies and things like that, I'm gonna go ahead and put Greg Raymer in my B tier. Aussie 2005 was won by Joe Hachem. Attendance doubled once again in the 2005 main with 5.6 thousand entries. Joe Hachem ended up taking the tournament down for $7.5 million in prize money. And while this was Hashem's lone bracelet, he has several other large tournament scores and has amassed just shy of $13 million in career earnings. He's been a great ambassador for the game and joins our group at the prestigious A tier. And just like that, we're back to some controversial main event champions with 2006 Jamie Gold taking it down. This year saw another boom in WSOP entries all the way up to 8.8 thousand in the main event. This record will remain intact until 2023. With such a large field, you might assume the eventual winner was a talented professional, but it was quite the opposite. Jamie Gold went on to win the event for a whopping $12 million first place prize, and his run is considered to be one of the luckiest in history. Gold's unorthodox style didn't give him much success after his initial win. He only had $600K in cashes for the rest of his career. And on a personal note, I'm not his biggest fan. About 10-15 years ago, there was an opening for the Tropicana Poker Room, rest in peace, and Jamie Gold opened the Jamie Gold Poker Room. I went to one of the first weeks there, and it was hosted by none other than Jamie Gold himself. A waitress walked by and asked anyone if we wanted to drink, and Jamie said, "We have to get this super nice, expensive tequila." I was 21, 23 at the time, something like that. I said, "I'm good, I'm trying to play." He said, no, waitress, we'll take two. She comes back over with these super high-end tequilas. We both have one. It was fine. It was good. And then she goes, okay, points at Jamie, yours is free, points at me, and yours will be $100. At this point, I'm kind of shocked because I didn't order it and I was sort of forced into this, and now it's $100. I'm playing 2-5 or something. And I say, hey, I didn't even order this. Like, can't it be comped under him? And then Jamie goes, sorry, man. Like, they can only comp mine. You got to pay for yours. And I had to pay for my tequila shot. I got forced into a $100 tequila shot that I didn't want to do against my will. I'm putting him in the C tier. Should be a C note tier. Got. The 2007 main event champion was Jerry Yang, and frankly, he's one of the more forgettable champions in the modern era. Jerry got into the main event via a 225 live satellite and started the final table in 8th place in chips. He went on a crazy run from there, knocking out 7 of the 8 remaining players en route to winning the event for $8.25 million. His win was impressive for sure, but he didn't do much in poker beyond this. He only has about $300K in other cashes, so I'm going to put him in my C tier as well. Peter Eastgate won the main event in 2008, and it was the debut of the November 9. This was a concept where the main event final table would be played out several months later to build hype, to build anticipation, to play out the event. 22-year-old Peter Eastgate won the tournament to become the youngest main event champion ever. After winning the main, Eastgate played on high-stakes poker and played one of the most viral hands of all time, featuring himself, Tom Dwan, and Barry Greenstein. A hand I still can't believe he folded, but it certainly was reasonable to do so given how strong of a hand Tom represented. Without going into details too much there on that hand, Eastgate didn't do too much else in his career, winning no other bracelets and having no other real notable accomplishments. But this one alone was enough to put him in my B tier. The 2009 main event champion was Joe Cada. Eastgate didn't hold the record of youngest champ for long. Just the next year, Joe Cada won the main event for over $8.5 million at the age of 21, a record that remains to this day. That record probably likely to stay there until Las Vegas changes their legal gambling age. Cada's success went far beyond just his victory. He has 4 career bracelets, almost $15 million in career earnings, and is the most recent former main event champion to make a main event final table, which he did in 2018. With this impressive resume, Joe Cada belongs in my A tier. The 2010 main event champion was Jonathan Duhamel, and he gave out one of the worst bad beats in poker history when he cracked Matt Affleck's pocket aces for this viral clip.
Matt Affleck is going to have 41 million chips or no chips. He needs to dodge a king, jack, or 8.
The river card. Oh, it's an 8! A crushing blow to Matt Affleck.
He's got to be heartbroken.
This gave Duhamel an insurmountable chip lead and went on to cruise to victory and earn just shy of $9 million. He also won 2 other bracelets, including the 2015 one drop for almost $4 million. Always impressive to win the one drop. Jonathan does have over 18 million in cashes, but has had some possibly questionable stuff on the side. Don't really want to get too deep into everyone's personal life here, but there were some robberies, there were some accusations, there were some income tax stuff. So all in all, while Jonathan has a very notable career, I'm actually going to go ahead and put him in the B tier. Pius Heinz won the 2011 main event championship for an $8.7 million score. He was the first German champion, but did not do that much else in the live poker arena. He was fairly known as an online MTT player. I'm going to say with this resume, I'm going to go ahead and give him my B tier. 2012 was won by Greg Merson. In 2012, the November 9 moved to October because of the election. October 9, not quite the same ring to it. Greg Merson ended up winning the main event for $8.5 million after defeating the 6.6 thousand player field. He also won Player of the Year that year after he won the 10K 6 Max bracelet. Greg has always conducted himself extremely professionally, continues to play poker to this day, and was a great ambassador to the game. He also has 11.5 million in live winnings. With all of these things, I'm going to go ahead and put Greg into my B tier. Could see maybe an A tier argument. I think he's just a notch below that. The 2013 champion Ryan Reese has had more staying power than many other champions. While his $8.3 million victory was the biggest score of his career, pretty likely winning the main event will be your biggest score. He also has 23 total six-figure cashes and 17 million in career earnings. Once again, I feel torn because if we're going player quality, representative of poker as an ambassador, those types of things, this is an A tier player, career resume. But if we go notoriety, what they kind of did to build poker, they're certainly much lower than that, which is kind of where this gets super, subjective, right? Like you could argue Greg and Ryan should both be higher than Scotty, but in terms of impact for poker, they were certainly much lower. I'm going to give Ryan the B tier. I could see an argument for A tier as well with that kind of career. It's kind of in that range, but another just a notch below A tier for me. In 2014, Martin Jacobson won the main event, and I feel the exact same way about him. He won a $10 million prize after defeating a 6.7 thousand player field, started the final table 8th in chips, but went on a crazy run to end up with the victory. I also played a very notable hand against Martin in the $111,000 one drop.
Oh, no, I think that was an all-in. And there's absolutely no way Martin folds here.
And he does fold.
Wow.
Got one through.
While that bracelet was the only one of his career, he does have over 8 million in additional cashes. With 21 career six-figure scores, he has a very similar resume to Ryan Reese, which also places him in the B tier. I really haven't felt good about the last three being in the B tier. I'm adding an A- tier, and I'm putting Ryan Reese and Martin Jacobson in there. I'm going to keep Greg in the B tier. I think his resume is just slightly lower than that. The 2015 main event was won by Joe McKeon. Now, he is one of the most successful main event champions we've seen in the modern era. He won the 2015 main event for $7.6 million. He also has 3 total bracelets and over 21 million in cashes, trailing only Phil Hellmuth and Koray Aldemir on this list. His main event victory was also extremely impressive, starting the final table with twice as many chips as anyone, with a wire-to-wire victory, just chip leading what I believe is the entire time. Now, the one drawback to Joe is that he's a f***ing dick. As just a brief example, I Googled this in 2 seconds. Does Joe McKeon have autism, or is he just an asshole? He's playing tournaments at the Seminole Hard Rock today and berating random people, won't stop talking about how bad he's running nonstop. This is 3 years ago. I'm trying to think about what's more tone deaf than someone that won the main event talking about running bad. His resume speaks for himself. I'm sure he is a good poker player, but the sour taste he leaves on the game as one of our most unlikable champions, I'm going to go ahead and put him in the B tier. I think I'm being generous here. Qui Nguyen won the 2016 main event. One giant step for raccoons everywhere. His memorable final table performance with his outfit and play was just about all we know about Nguyen. In fact, after winning the main event for $8 million, he's done basically nothing. That counts for 97% of his career earnings. For that reason, I'm putting him in my C tier. Scott Blumstein won the 2017 World Series of Poker main event with a victory over my friend Dan Ott, who got second place. I helped Dan prepare for the tournament, but I gotta say, seems like maybe I need to work on my heads-up game. Before winning the main, Scott had 1 career cash for $14,000. What a run to go from that to an $8.15 million score. But like Qui Nguyen, we haven't seen too much of him since his event, and I'm going to go ahead and place him in my C tier. The 2018 main event saw a 199-hand heads-up match, ending with Johnston taking home first place for $8.8 million. Just 2 years before this, he finished in 11th in the main event for $650K, two very impressive runs in a quite short span. These two scores account for almost all of his career earnings. Since we haven't seen too much from him beyond these events, I'm going to go ahead and put him in my C tier, although it's almost a B tier just to have two runs that deep. I feel pretty good about the C tier. Hossein Ensan won in 2019 after decades of younger players won the main event. We saw a 55-year-old emerge victorious over high-stakes pro Dario Sammartino. This win made Ensan the oldest main event champion since Noel Furlong in 1999. We've not seen too much of him since this victory, so we're also putting him in the C tier. The 2020 main event was online, so kind of hard to give this the same weight, but Damian Salas took it down for $2.5 million, the lowest main event payout since Chris Moneymaker. They did have the final table live. Look, I'm sure you're a good player, but this win just isn't impressive enough as the rest. I'm going to be putting you in my C tier. After COVID altered the WSOP in 2020, there were lingering effects in 2021. I think it was the Delta strain. Attendance had bounced back to close to pre-pandemic numbers with 6.7 thousand entries. High-stakes pro Koray Aldemir took this event down for $8 million. Now, Koray Aldemir is an accomplished, successful, good high-stakes tournament player, and while this is his only bracelet, he has over $22 million in career cashes, which is the second best of any main event champion. His success outside of this one tournament is enough to end the streak of C-tier champions. He is going in the A tier. The one drawback to Koray maybe is that he's pretty forgettable. I had actually forgotten he won it until this video, but I think it's just too much success. We're going to put him in the A tier. Espen Jørstad won the event in 2022 with everything back to normal post-COVID. The location also moved from the Rio over to Horseshoe in Paris. The Rio gone, but unfortunately not forgotten.
I think I'm gonna fucking burn this fucking place down.
Espen emerged victorious for $10 million in this event. Good for his second bracelet of the summer. He also won the tag team bracelet with Patrick Leonard, beating out Poker News member Jamie Kerstetter. Ooh, tough break there, Code Jamie. Couldn't take it down. Not everyone's built to win the tag team. The last few members of this list only won recently, so there's still a lot of time for them to try and build their resumes. I would say Espen conducted himself extremely befitting as a champion. He is a good poker player, good mindset, clearly not going to have some of the drawbacks of some of these past champions whose lives were shit shows. So I'm going to go ahead and put him in the B tier, but I would likely expect that to move up over the rest of his career. The 2023 main event was record-setting. For the first time in history, over 10,000 players entered, creating a record-setting $12.1 million first-place prize. With such a massive field, it's no surprise that an accomplished player like Daniel Weinman took it down. Now, I actually played with Daniel way back in the day in Full Ring on PokerStars with Not Until 09. We used to duke it out playing tons of tables at once, playing Full Ring. So I was extremely happy to see someone I've known over the years, at least through the online presence, and maybe a little bit here and there talking online. I was really happy to see Daniel do well, and I think he was a befitting champion. As someone that really kind of earned their way up through poker, I think he was a great champion. It was also his second career bracelet and brought his career earnings to over $16 million. I'm gonna go ahead and put him, once again, we're right there. I'm gonna put him in my A- tier. I think he's not quite at that A tier, but he's a little bit above the B tier, right in that middle ground. Finally, we have one of the more controversial main event champions, Jonathan Tamayo. The 2024 main event broke the previous year's record with 10.1 thousand entries, but the top prize was brought back to $10 million in order to flatten the payouts. Jonathan Tamayo took it down in what some would call controversial fashion. During the final table, he was repeatedly seen going over to the rail to consult with his team and a laptop held by poker pro Dominique Niche. During these moments, photos emerged where GTO Wizard ranges were up on the screen, which created the laptop gate scandal. Now, this story attracted tons of negative attention as it appeared like he was getting unfair coaching in between hands. I'll also say at a personal level, I saw a lot more outrage about this, the fact that they were consulting in between hands. I almost do feel a little bad for Jonathan Tamayo. He seems like a nice enough guy. I don't think he was trying to cheat or whatever it might be. And some people get confused and say that he was using RTA in the event. That's really not true. He was referencing stuff in between hands and then going back to play, which shouldn't be allowed and is wrong, but is way different than someone playing online poker and having the answers up to cheat you while you play. It's pretty night and day. But he should have known better than to be doing this and to be trying to relay information back and forth to play better, to have a better result at the final table. I'm gonna go ahead and put him in the C tier. I know there were people that might put him in the D or F tier or drop him down. I don't really know. To me, I think C tier is fair. He's done not that much outside of the main event, and I'm not entirely sure what I think about it. This is a tough one. What do you guys think in the comments below? So there you have it, our exclusive tier list of every main event champion ranked. Who will win this year? I've got one submission, your boy Code Doug.
Oh my.
Wow.
Aces versus kings again. This time it's Doug Polk with the aces, Chung with the kings.
Brought to you by Club WPT Gold. My name is Code Doug, and you can sign up today.
Oh, it's a king in the window.
No clubs. No clubs.
King 6-3, all clubs.
Might be what he deserves for the shameless promotion, but let's carry on.
Not even Code Doug can save you with a 100 coins free roll on September 20th. Sign up today using
Better get it in now.
Code Doug.
Chung is unstoppable.
Needs an ace. It's not there.
Good game.
That is sickening.
Great playing, Doug.
Say good game to Doug Polk. Class act on his way out. Beat Club WPT Gold Ambassador. If you're the superstar now.
Anyway, guys, thank you for tuning in. And one more thing, a lot of new viewers on the channel. If you like the content, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications so you know when I'm posting. It means a lot to support the channel, and I appreciate all the love I've gotten over the last few weeks. That's it from me. I'll see you guys again soon.